This episode of Old Gods of Appalachia is brought to you in part by Sucre Bay, a women-owned and operated perfumery unlike any other. Sucre Bay not only brings you the finest in small batch perfumes, their website is a virtual treasure trove of stories and content including Oddling Tales, a podcast where they read you stories from the site. Heck, they even feature another podcast called The Fearless Broadcast featuring interviews with other women business owners. And family, did I mention that Sucre Bay is also responsible for a massive indie marketplace, mostly consisting of other women makers? If you look down in the show notes, family, you'll find a link to their vibrant Facebook group, as well as a link for a special offer for Old Gods family members. Spend $25 anywhere in the store and add a dram of nightshade. Scent notes include a big glass of whiskey, sandalwood, amber, and real ylang ylang. Just use the code LOVEGODS, LOVEGODS, Sucre Bay. Welcome to the dark side. We smell awesome. This episode's special deluxe benefactor, the good folks over at the Scared to Death Horror Podcast. Nearing 150 episodes of demonic possession, hauntings, shadow people, black-eyed children, alien abductions, and so much more and so much worse. As horror lover Dan Cummins attempts to terrify his wife Linz with 2 supposedly true tales each week. Linz gets back at Dan with potentially scarier stories, sharing at least 2 listener-submitted encounters with the paranormal, often the most disturbing part of the show. So, family, if you need more chills in your life, if you don't quite feel twitchy enough, it's time for Scared to Death. New episodes drop every Tuesday night at the stroke before midnight Pacific time. Available anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also go over, search for them on YouTube, and enjoy the show there. So if you're looking for something scary, mysterious, and interesting to take your mind to a dark place, check out Scared to Death. Old Gods of Appalachia is a horror anthology podcast, and therefore may contain material not suitable for all audiences. So listener discretion is advised. Oh, Appalachia. Oh, home place and hearth, oh, prison and pride, we invoke your name this night with both love and fear. When your rolling shoulders swallow the setting sun, oh mother, it is that fear that moves both heart and tongue to draw tight curtains so that we might let the darker hours pass unseen. We hear you call in the deepest night. We hear you call to us in voices that belong to our dead and gone, and we know better, but we follow you into the darkened woods all the same. Bramble and briar tearing at our clothes and skin, trying to save us from ourselves, but we push on, hoping to find somebody who knows our name and can show us the way out. Oh, labyrinth of promised prosperity, kept by kings who would feed us to their own indiscretions. No golden thread for us to follow through these dread halls built on this the corpse of our mother that wind deeper and darker until we meet much worse than minotaurs in the middle. And none of us have even come close to building wings. We see you. Oh, fallen tree father lit by a half moon, parroting broken prayers at an altar you never meant to build, but you did. Oh, bent back brother, fresh from the underneath, full-sooted from head to toe, lungs full of tomorrow's fresh hell and a voice choked with the rasp of good money sliding down the chute. Eager to move on to greener grass and higher hopes, but found that the company owned so much more than just the town. set guards on your family, paid you in script and bloodied mouths, showed you how much worse it could be. Until you found your words, but more importantly, your guns, and then you spake forth with a fire that your will would be done on earth just as it was in Harlan, just like you did back on Blair Mountain and in Matewan and in Paintin' Cabin Creeks and however many other hollers that nobody bothered to put up a plaque for. No entry in the museum for the bodies they never found. Oh, fire and forge. Hard-hearted hammer that shapes and breaks us on the anvil of a God that no one really remembers, so we make do with what we're told. Oh, sweet soil, blessed for battle and burial, we bleed and kill and die for you, even though you were never ours to begin with. And if this dark and bloody ground asks you for just a little bit more, you give it. You give it all. You give it your last until you have nothing, or nothing, hollowed out and waiting to be filled, waiting for the dark to find you.
Something way my way comes and treads off, my friend, into these shadows where the old ones roam. For in these hills we die alone.
Now the Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and the doctrines of devils. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1. Invincible, abashed the devil stood, and felt how awful goodness is. John Milton, Paradise Lost. Beneath the new moon in the deepest woods between Harlan, Kentucky and the Virginia line, a boy presses through the darkest night of the year in search of answers. He clutches what he thought would be his granny's old Bible to his chest. When he rescued it from their house before the bank nailed the doors shut and cast him to the wind, he'd expected to find answers inside. Now, he wasn't much interested in the good news of the gospel within, but in the tangled roots and spidery lines of a family tree that adorned the inside cover. A place where an orphan boy might learn the names of his folks, kept from him from these many years for reasons unexplained. Instead, he'd found a list of other names, and in the pages beyond found a testament of a different kind that had explained why he had never known his people, why no one would give him work, why the good folks that had helped so many others had turned their backs on him. a record of hard truths that had brought him here to speak with those who might be willing to barter with one such as him. In the furthest reaches of West Virginia, there is a rock mighty and tall and set on the edge of the only known naturally occurring lake in a place where the cold just don't act right. In this place, that sweet black diamond comes out of the earth all soft and hot, and if you try to burn it, well, you might as well buy the devil a birthday present and kiss your behind goodbye, for there is a strangeness to the land here. The rock and the men who live there seem to dance to a different tune and answer to neither man nor God, haint nor thing. This is not a place for outsiders. And you do well to keep on moving, friend. If the men of the rock seek you out, pray that the green or the dark hides you well, for their purpose is their own, and is usually not for others to know. When you're a girl born neath a moonless sky, to a father whose very seed bore the taint of what sleeps beneath the grave, and a mother who was naught but a cold spot in a house so grand and haunted that even the ghosts stayed away, darkness is all that you know. Some might say you were forged and honed rather than raised. A sacrificial dagger to be worn on your daddy's belt and drawn when his will need be imposed upon the world. You know what it means to stand in the deep places and see your daddy call forth those who have been hollowed. You have borne witness to the purging of the light in the eyes of men as they are twisted into new shapes to suit your family's ends. You have come to love the finer things, and why not? You have earned them with every threat whispered in the halls of industry and government and every spine you ever snapped in the hill towns and hollers. You have slept the sleep of the cold and soulless, and have been visited in dreams by those who would promise you ascension, rebirth, and supremacy. Why shouldn't you have all the pretty dresses and glittering rings? Why shouldn't you have fine mirrors and combs to adorn your hair, fashioned from the bones of those you have conquered in his name? Your daddy founded an empire on coal and bones and blood, tearing down mountains and carving whole civilizations out of the wilderness like some wraith-skinned god. Bless your daddy. Bless him well and anoint his head and his hands and his feet in tears. Bless him and adorn his brow in dead roses. Bless his sightless eyes that watch over us all. Bless his ever-bleeding throat as he rests inside his fine black box hung in the sight of those who sleep beneath. May he forever hold their favor just as you hold his. Let the sheep organize and squawk about the power of their union, then watch them scatter when the hollow men come to call. Let them wage their little wars and kill their own so their blood might feed the hungry earth of the mountain they sold themselves to. Let the bean counters tremble at your eldest brother's name, and let the men down in the mines cower at your middle brother's ghost as they grind themselves to gray dust beneath the skin of the world. Those wise enough and quick enough to have survived to become old men know that the bearer to truly be feared is old E.P.'s baby girl. Yes, sir. Precious as a pearl, prideful as a peacock, pretty as a picture. And in the far reaches of a forgotten place we cannot and will not name, a prince has reclaimed his amber crown and seeks those who would serve his court. Once again, his great shadow moves through the deepest and coldest places, where the sun don't never quite reach, and the mountain breeze always carries an edge of frost. He waits for those who would seek his counsel, those who would pay him homage. He is, after all, the very best at waiting. There are those who choose, and those who are chosen by the darkness, by smoke or by blood, by fire or by blade. They make their way into the lost places, seeking to be found. They turn to the dusk, for the dawn has failed them. And this season will carry their stories and those of many others. But the dark has power that the green won't show. So as above, so below, family.
When the fire don't burn and the grass don't grow and the good folks turn from where the bad folk go, either seeking power or by the lot of birth, they find their way beneath the cold dark earth. So what can you do when help never comes? When the beast speaks true, but your people stay mum. The dark has powers that the green won't show, 'cause as above, so below.
Well, hey there, family, and welcome one and all to Season 3 of Old Gods of Appalachia, As Above, So Below. I hope y'all are ready, because we're going to be journeying deep into the stories of those who have chosen darkness, who have chosen to walk within the shadow of the mountain, and have shunned or been shunned by the light of the green and whatever else might be out there.